Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's all
I mean, I
about
think a lot of what we're doing is like fundamentals of just life. And
yeah.
if you just have someone to hold you accountable to that, you can apply it in a lot of other ways.
Do you know this guy when we were talking? He was like, he's like, Kevin, so I kicked his ass, right? And so he called me, we're talking this morning. He goes, dude, you kicked my ass. He goes, you hold me accountable, right? And then I'm like, okay. And he goes, so I didn't go into work today. And I went and registered my business, got my bank account, funded the bank account, right? And I'm like, oh, right? Because I told him, I was like, dude, unless you're confident, I'm not confident, right? And unless you put a stake in the ground and have a vivid vision, because oh, I'm gonna do this. No, 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 no. So the dude, like, and the dude's owns a law firm, right? So it's like, I went in and I was like, dear Jesus, because you don't want to get arrogant, dude. You don't want to get arrogant. But it's really fucking cool when like people who are like really well off are like, they're taking your strategy and advice and it's like working for them.
And it's really cool to push people beyond their comfort zones just a bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you did with the law guy.
Well, and we did the same thing with Mike too. This guy, Mark, we're not live, right?
We are.
We are live?
Go ahead and finish your thought.
This guy, Mike, was in Wisconsin, and it's like he's in the snow. He's been on lockdown for COVID, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, it's like he's got a wild hair up his ass. I'm gonna do something more than what I'm doing. And we got together, and it's like when we started, he was shy, he was uncomfortable, he was nervous about even filming himself, And now it's like, and even when we started, it was like, after every episode, it's like every podcast, he was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do the next one. Now it's like, just like, what's up?
Now he's comfortable.
Not only is he comfortable,
now he's an awesome host.
Yeah, not only is he comfortable, but it's like expanding, it's growing, and it's exponential. It's like it's exponential to see because it takes about 4 to 5 months of just busting your ass to see because you're doing a lot of work and it's tedious, it's boring, and then all of a sudden, boom, it starts paying off. And then when you see that, it's like it's so rewarding. Momentum has its own reward. If you keep that momentum going, it's gonna just be sweet. So anyway,
that's a great tee up and segue for us, Kevin.
Okay, so I'll let you guys go.
We're building momentum off the back of what we did yesterday, and I thought we had a great conversation. My only regret is we didn't record it for other people's benefit, but we had a great conversation about your business, its viable marketing channels, business model, positioning strategy, and what we left as homework for last night was you were going to work on your ugly baby.
That's right.
Did you work on your ugly baby?
I did. So I copied the deck that Kevin sent over, switched out the words, most of them, for words that relate to plants, but also like redid like the first like 5 slides. So looking forward to going through it with you guys.
Cool. About if you had to put a percentage on how much you completed your homework, what would you give?
About like a 50.
About a 50.
Maybe a 60. Yeah.
So I ask you that. Because this is all about momentum and accountability, right? And that's why we're here today. Momentum.
You might want to turn up your mic volume as we begin the format.
Okay, how's that?
Much better.
Okay. It's all about momentum and accountability, and that's why we're here today. We are trying to continuously step up the ladder, build momentum. Accountability is what allows us to know that our foot is on the right rung of the ladder. That's what accountability is. So let's take a look at your homework, which was termed appropriately or inappropriately, the ugly baby. All right.
Can I interject really quickly what the ugly baby is? Okay, so the ugly baby comes from David McClure. I'm old school. I was in the first .com era. I'm obviously in my 40s. I was doing the whole San Francisco .com thing, and I was there, the halcyon days, doing big stuff all the time. And then things changed, went to Web 2. It was more bloody knuckle startups, like you're fail fast, get your idea to market, get an MVP, solve the problem and fix it. And I love there's an ugly baby. I call it Dave McClure's Ugly Baby. And it's basically, I don't even know what he titles it. Do you have the ugly baby example? You just show the picture of it? No. Okay, it's fine. So Dave McClure's Ugly Baby is the same format I've used, and I've never not raised money with it. Never. Not in 10 years.
It's a really bad looking pitch deck.
It's called the Ugly Baby. But if you answer every question, it takes you down the narrative of what you need to answer for investors. It is the perfect. I've never seen a more perfect deck. And for that, I'm going to shut up and let Mark talk.
Okay. So for the purposes of comparison and contrast, it would be nice to show these, show the ugly baby and then your version side by side. Do you have the ability to open up the other one in another window?
Yes. Let me see how that'll affect the screen share, though.
Okay. I don't know the answer to that either.
I think, let me see.
For brevity and space of time, why don't we just go through his deck and then we can put the link to the Ugly Baby below and then do another show on the Ugly Baby and why it's important.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. So if you could walk us through slide by slide, not just what it says, but your thought process behind it, I think that would be tremendously useful.
Sure. So what you see here is our logo. It's just Plants Without Borders. And our tagline is ethically sourced and sustainably grown. What that means is that all of the products that we distribute are part of an ethical value chain where workers are treated fairly and producers are treated fairly in the market. The sustainably grown aspect refers to the organic production methods that we promote amongst our supplier cooperative and the fact that we try to also be carbon neutral. Once we start opening up our e-commerce, we're going to offer like carbon footprint offsets, things like that. And it's all in the name of promoting a more sustainable value chain in plants.
Can I make a comment? That was a very powerful description you just gave. Is that somewhere else in the pitch deck?
No.
Okay. I would suggest...
That's, yeah.
I like simplicity, but I would suggest on the next slide, maybe, say what you just said. And now we have video evidence of what you just said. Say what you just said on the next slide. So what you're doing is you're breaking down what this intro screen is.
Got it. So our three core values at Plants Without Borders are sustainable farming.
Can you go to the present button that way it's full screen? Yeah, so it's prettier.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm kind of a stickler.
No worries. So we've got three core values at Plants Without Borders, and they're sustainable farming, ethical sourcing, and fair trade. What we want to promote is a global trade environment where producers are treated fairly in the market, workers are treated ethically, and consumers are able to buy plants that are sustainable, meaning that they're part of an international ecosystem of ethically sourced produce and ethically sourced labor as well.
And that's the value chain that you mentioned before.
Right.
I love it.
The problem right now in horticulture is it's a supply chain problem, and there's two sides of that coin. Garden centers and nurseries in the US are facing a supply shortage despite the fact that demand has increased so much. Garden centers and nurseries, the whole horticulture industry has been becoming slowly less profitable. And although COVID had that spike in demand, a lot of garden centers and nurseries aren't able to meet it, and still to this day. So the problem isn't the garden centers and it's not the growers, but it's the entire system of how the supply chain is set up. And it all comes down to how many intermediaries stand between the consumer and the producer. And it's not just middlemen that are a broker that don't add any value. They also slow down the transfer of knowledge from the consumers or the feedback to the actual producers of the plants. So in situations where the wholesaler in the United States is like contracting out work for growers overseas, they're not going to be sharing like what's going on, like what the market looks like. They're just like, hey, grow this, grow that. But I think just wiping that entire slate clean and starting with the consumers and the producers and uniting them through a one technology and sustainability filter is the way to go.
You're giving really vivid descriptions for each slide, and I love it. This is all really good so far. Nice job.
Thanks. And I think visuals, they are very important. And like adding it into this new slide or this new version of the presentation, even me just looking at it now, it's like, wow, grower only gets paid 6% for selling a pineapple to Dole, who's going to turn around and sell that for X amount.
The way to drive it home, have you heard of Robert
Kiyosaki?
No, is it him?
The Rich
It's
Dad
30-20-10. 30-20-10. 30-point type, or 30 minutes, 20-point type, and 10 slides. So your 6% needs to be like this big. Your 94% needs to be that big. That's it. I'm done here. Next slide.
Yeah. The previous slide, the previous version had the Godfather. And I think that Dole and Chiquita, large intermediaries with all of the bargaining power, they pretty much are able to extort labor out of poor people in poor countries that have access to farmland.
I live right next door to one of the biggest pineapple plantations in Dole's entire repertoire, right here in Philly.
I love how you took the slide from the Ugly Baby slideshow. Who's the name of the author, Kevin?
I'm sorry?
Who's the name of the author of the original slideshow?
The 500 Startups guy, Dave McClure. Dave
McClure. I love how you took the idea, not the image, but the idea of the Godfather, and you translated it to your industry in a very convincing way.
No, that's my Godfather. I added that, not Dave McClure. That's mine.
Okay. Great.
So that everybody understands, since I've used Dave McClure's template, I've added to it over the years. So there's certain parts that Dave has. Okay. What Dave has is the formula. I just added the characterizations.
I gotcha.
So
Well, I love how all of that, regardless of your contributions individually, has materialized on this slide. And with your description, Mark, it's perfect.
Thanks. It was really a natural just, oh, there's the Godfather. All right, well, I'll just put these companies there. And I think if
I would suggest put the Godfather before this slide. Just have the Godfather picture, because what you're doing is you're drafting it works, dude. It works. Next slide.
There are three main improvements to the value chain that we are able to achieve. And the first is to just fix the supply chain when it comes to how information, product, and capital flows through the entire chain. One easy way to do that is by just cutting out people that don't need to be there. So whether that's the wholesaler or the importer or the customs broker, there are so many people that are touching the plant that don't really add any value at all. And the entire system is incentivized to keep this in place. So they're never going to naturally move into that direction where all of a sudden farmers are making a living wage and et cetera.
Right.
There's too many intermediaries and they all have their own incentives, which also disincentivizes cooperation between the different companies throughout the chain.
Yeah.
Even though it would be necessary for the benefit of the industry.
Because these people are lifelong. These people are lifelong investors. This is their business. So their business is to own my stake of the supply chain. And maybe give another slide that would extrapolate on that supply chain.
Yeah, and I was wondering that too. How do you go around the established players or disrupt them?
A really clear example of this is just how people in the United States, and this is how I started the business, I just came across a community of people that were contacting growers in Indonesia and Malaysia and sending them thousands of dollars to get the plants directly. Typically, you would have a wholesale nursery, like farm aggregator type corporation that'll contract out the work to, let's say, a smaller or a larger farm. That'll get shipped to the wholesaler. That person will import it to the facility in the US. They might grow it for a little bit more. They'll sell that to a wholesale nursery who then may sell that to a garden center or a landscaper. When the really clear issue here is that everyone's trying to compete with each other. A wholesale nursery now allows people to walk in and buy plants. Why would they ever need the garden center? So what you're seeing now is all of these companies that maybe 50 years ago, there was enough business to sustain everybody just from people walking in the door. Like, that's changed so quickly in the past 5 years that the horticultural industry will really need to think of different ways to cooperate.
Interesting.
So the market is shifting. The market is shifting. You're positioning yourself. So do you have another slide that shows that graphically? Okay, so you don't. So what I would suggest, go back. Okay, so no worries, go back one more. Okay, so go back one more.
I have can I show you the slide with the...
After this, yes. After this, fix the supply chain. You need to show the supply chain. Remember the rice one that we did? You show each segment of
each link in the chain.
Right, and you do a whole circle, arrows, and then what you're doing is the next slide is, right, you cut out the middleman. Next.
Let me just switch over to the other screen real quick because I want to touch on it while you mentioned it. And it's funny because I recently watched a webinar where they had the heads of commercial sales for these big European producers. They had a plant influencer. They also had like an importer, like one of the largest importers of plants to the U.S., and he's saying that he can't even get the retail data, the stores aren't sharing it with him, etc. And one of the Dutch growers were asked if they would ever start working with influencers like more heavily, because the whole premise of the webinar was to talk about how they can meet the demand of the new houseplants. So
Yeah.
the influencer is saying, I'm creating the demand. People want this because I'm talking about it. And you can see that the Dutch growers like, well, I know that I should be doing it, but I don't know how much I want to start cooperating with this other entity.
Because
So-
they're afraid. They're afraid of its power. They're afraid of losing control. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know whose fault that is?
Exactly.
Hold on. Do you know whose fault that is? It's not the Dutch, because the Dutch is the market, right? The fault is that influencer that doesn't know how to make the value leap for the Dutch. Remember, when you communicate, there's 4 parts of communication. You have the message, the messenger, the medium, and the audience. If one of those 4 break down, the entire message is lost. So that influencer is like, well, I'm important. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
not the answer. The answer would be, let me extrapolate my reach and my value and how this helps you. Because remember, everything is WIIFM. What's in it for me? If you're talking to the grower and you're, I'm important because I'm an influencer, you're not helping them. Because what you say is, listen,
I have all the power. Yeah.
Right? You have this problem. This is how I solve your problem, and this is how I make you rich. Remember, 80% of all human action is to stop pain. Right? You're right. So someone who's risk adverse would not be in the growing business. I mean, not risk adverse. Someone who's like a gambler or willing to take risks or change themselves wouldn't be in the growing business. Growers, understand your market. Growers are what? They plant seeds and then they nurture them and then they watch them grow. You just can't come in with an entire new business model and go, hey, do it because I'm going to, yeah. You've got to make that value leap, and you've got to hold their hand all along the way that says, this is your problem, this is how we fix it, this is what's right. And then here's something else that you mentioned that I don't know if you touched on that we spoke of yesterday. Something you mentioned that we touched on that we spoke of yesterday. And that is, you're willing to encourage and support and financially reward growers that work with you that are ethically and sustainably sourced. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you say, hey, bro, you're making this much over here, but you're going to be able to make this much with me. Not only that, I'll give you a commitment for this, and I'll support you, and I'll market you as the farmer. Because, and this is another touch point that you can talk upon, is remember the video about the rice farmers in the field and all that stuff? You've got, what people don't understand is, you're putting that farmer on the stage.
Yeah.
But right now, that farmer is
Yes.
invisible. And you're putting that farmer on the stage saying,
You're making them the heroes.
yeah, you want to buy from Juan Valdez? You want to buy from, Juan?
Tito Zenko. I mean, the
Juan is a very
music festival. Yeah.
Juan is a very cool
Like-
picture. Ocean Mexicans
No,
are
it's
Juan.
close to Tito. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and to restate what Kevin is saying, the power of choice can't be underestimated here. You can go to them, go to your growers and say, hey, do you want to be part of the value chain that you've always been a part of with 25 intermediaries?
you're right. Yeah.
Or do
Or do you want to be known,
chain that
right?
I'm creating with
Is his name?
intermediaries?
Is he Dutch? Say Hans. Hans. Smack him upside the head. Hans, listen to me.
Well, you're right about how, it might not even be that they don't want to cooperate. It just hasn't been presented to them in the right way. So I think sometimes I get too quickly frustrated with people who don't get it the first 30 seconds of me talking to them.
Can I NLP your
of course,
mind real
that's
quick?
good.
Can I NLP? You know how Mike Tyson was hypnotized when he was 16 years old to be the world and the best boxer in the world?
No, I didn't know that.
All right, so I'm going to NLP you real quick so that I can teach you that you're going to be the best salesman in the world. The only reason somebody doesn't say yes is because inside they're saying, I'm losing here. So the only reason you do not have a sale yet is because they haven't seen it as a win. people buy for their own reasons, not yours. So the first question that you always have to understand yourself is, where is this person coming from? Okay.
Right.
So that's the whole people buy for their own reasons, not yours. That's solving their pain. So you have to solve their pain. You have to make it simple, make the value leap. So if somebody's saying no, it's because you're not addressing those things. And
Right.
even after you address them, you might find out they don't want to buy from American because you're far away. They don't want to deal right. So there's other things. Sometimes people don't. Steve Jobs said this. Steve Jobs came up and he picked up his phone and he says, "You see this? There's no buttons, right? Right? Because the customers didn't even know. So sometimes your customers might not even know what they really want."
Well, that goes
rephrase
into like how the company like will operate fundamentally. And if you stripped everything down from it, we use AI to track consumer demand by looking at what's trending on social media and just saying that that's an indicator of what people are paying attention to. By default, they're going to pay more for it. Why don't we just take a fast fashion drop shipping approach, but with something that doesn't contribute to like landfills and all that kind of stuff? So,
Brother, your communication might be an issue there as well. Remember, you're talking to growers and plant people. Just say, what if there was an application that would make you psychic so that you could see what people wanted? That would be a lot better way of framing it.
Right.
AI. Because if you said AI, they're like, oh, right? But if you say, what if there's an app for that lets you be psychic, that lets you understand what people are wanting based on behavior and trends and search terms?
And yeah, and I was just more referring to the entire horticulture industry, because the whole webinar is like, how can we meet demand? And they're saying, well, we're not even getting the retail sales data. Well, that's a lagging indicator, and that's filtered through another lagging indicator, whoever's going to aggregate all that retail sales data, if they even want to give it to you. But the notifications just collecting how much people are talking about and liking certain plants, like that's objective right there, and that's fully public and transparent. And people don't know that they're participating in a research study when they participate in social media.
Right. I think people get over obsessed with AI too. AI is just a really efficient spreadsheet, and if you run your business like a spreadsheet, you're going to arrive at a model that makes sense for profits in the short term, but doesn't make sense in a lot of other areas. This is the brilliance of Steve Jobs. He was an artist first. Like in his heart and soul, he was an artist. And he would step out and push his employees to design something that probably didn't even make sense from a profitability standpoint at first, because he was pushing the horizons of what is known and what's possible. And in the same way, the visionaries of today have to let go of notions, have to deprioritize notions of like efficiency and optimization and AI run everything, because AI wouldn't create the iPad. AI wouldn't create the
Here's the thing. Fifi Lee. She'd probably be a better example than Steve Jobs. Fifi Lee of Stanford. She's the voice that's doing objective modeling for AI and whatnot. So AI basically is a feature set. It goes from machine learning to artificial intelligence, which is predictive based on that. So let's get to your next slide.
All right.
Stanford University is where it's
Okay,
at.
so we were talking about the value chain and how many steps there are to it.
Okay.
So this is the current value chain.
She put this in an arrow bubble, bro, like a circular.
So let me just say, this this is not your value chain per se. These are your stakeholders.
Both. So this is what he's trying to replace. So these are all this is why you got to put it in that circle, bro, with the arrows.
Right.
People can immediately understand what it is. Don't worry, it's okay. I'm going to help you with the visual.
This is what I think the new paradigm of how houseplants are consumed will look like.
Nice.
There's not going to be much of unnecessary intermediaries over time. And you're going to see just influencers just continue to control people's desires and behaviors. So
they are.
We're going to lean into that now.
Yeah.
And
well said.
And what we're going to try to do is make it almost like SNL.
Yeah, it's a Prometheus
up and coming
concept.
Growers. You know.
Yeah, it's a Prometheus concept, bro. Prometheus concept is centers of gravity, spheres of influence. So the U.S. military uses this whenever we invade. This is what's going on in our own country now, is that for years we used something called the Prometheus concept. We look at centers of gravity and spheres of influence, and you either attack them or enable them to gather influence and control over society to overthrow it. So we did this with the invasion of Iraq when we gave out those playing card decks with the King of Hearts and whatnot, so that the soldiers would know who to get and all that stuff. So spheres of influence is what you're doing right now, which is called influencer marketing, or you're looking at spheres of influence, people that direct.
Right. It's
networks.
imperialism type. No.
Not imperialism. You're looking at centers of gravity. Imperialism is different, but you're looking at centers of gravity, and so centers of gravity within that. That's smart. That's very smart. I'm very proud of you. Go ahead, next.
We already saw the slide, right? So this all comes down to increasing income for the growers. And I shared the example of how growers got 3 pesos per big pineapple. And that big pineapple can cost $2 minimum here in the US. So when my uncle sent me a screenshot of the receipt, and he's like, look, you get 3 pesos for a grade A fruit. I was like, well, when's the last time that price changed? Because what's 3 pesos? Like, you obviously didn't calculate that. It probably isn't adjusted or indexed to anything. So
that everyone knows, it's 49 Philippine pesos to $1. So you're looking at 5 cents a pineapple.
Right, and there are other people as well that are not dull that share in the retail price, like the grocery store, Albertsons, etc. But what I'm saying is that they're doing the hardest job and they're getting the least.
They're getting 6 cents a pineapple. 6 cents a pineapple. 6 cents.
It's the Godfather corporations that are raking in the lion's share.
What people don't understand is it's not. This is what I would like to make clear, Mark and Tyler, quickly. Okay, this is not like the evil of capitalism. This is called supply chain. And what we're doing is we're streamlining the supply chain to make it more successful, more ethically sourced, and more sustainable and more prosperous for everyone involved. When you have Godfather syndicate organizations that indebt the farmer, because I live in the Philippines, I know this. They indebt the farmers, they lend them money, they only get it back. And so this entire system has nothing to do with Albertsons in the US.
It has nothing to do with free markets.
It has nothing, right? Because the market's not free in Indonesia. The market's not free in the Philippines. You have to sell.
It's called a captive market.
Yeah, what people don't understand is a free market means that the guy in Indonesia or Philippines can sell to the consumer in America. Mm-hmm. That's not that's free market. What we're talking about is streamlining and going around the corruption, cutting through the middleman. And so that's something that people must understand, is that the definition of success is more efficient capitalism, not crony capitalism, which is everybody gets a peso. I don't know if you guys know this, but imagine this, okay? So let's say you get 8 pesos a driver in a jeepney. So you're driving a jeepney and you're going from point A to point B. After every segment of the route, you have to give 1 peso a passenger to the guy that owns that route. And it's not a guy that owns it, it's a syndicate. And if you don't give them the money, the toll fare, and this is all off the books, it's not legal, they will beat you up or kill you. So all around the world, you don't understand, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that
it's like that in farming.
If it's called racketeering, and it's technically
yes, and it exists.
But it still happens
right.
Globally,
so Plants Without Borders, Plants Without Borders goes through this. It's like a hot knife through butter. We're going around this bullshit. We're going through it from the growers to the nurseries and the consumers in the U.S. And what we're doing is we're cutting through all those layers of bullshit. And that's, Mark, that's what you've got to focus on when you're doing. Because see, you're doing like, hey, it's this, but you're not. You should have all those layers. You should represent that graphically and saying we're cutting through all this bullshit, all this corruption, all this syndicate, all this cronyism and racketeering, and we're going from the Godfather straight through. Because it's not just one Godfather.
Visual.
It's not one Godfather. It's like 15. You know.
Oh yeah.
Not only that, dude, they've got to like buy their. They got to buy the equipment. They live on the land. This is the Great Reset. What you're describing right here is you will own nothing and be happy. You're not going to be happy. I'm done with that. Sorry.
It was a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up because we are not here to talk ill of free market capitalism, the way it's supposed to work. And
what we're here is to remove the bullshit. Get rid of the bullshit.
Have been perverted is not because of free market capitalism. It's because of organized syndicates and racketeering in a global fashion. And
you're going to have problem, Mark, with local politicians eventually.
You will. It's inevitable.
Because you want to know who controls all of this?
But
so next slide, Mark. Let's keep going. I don't mean to.
You've got a great vision, Mark. You've got a great vision.
Thanks. And this slide is about streamlining the value chain. And I think one way that you can think about it is like with taxis in San Francisco. Now they're operating under the city of San Francisco's rules. And San Francisco had a monopoly or basically complete control over who could be a taxi driver. That's like if you wanted to be an independent banana farmer in Mindanao, like how much success would you have? Probably not. Like it's impossible, right?
No, there's many.
Yeah.
You sell locally. So one of the biggest successes of the Philippines is local agriculture and free markets. What happens in America is all the meat is centralized and they have supply chains that are controlled. That's why if there's a sickness, it distributes through all of them.
Yeah.
That's why prices are so high. What is really successful is local, sustainable, family-run farms, and because what people understand.
I think Mark was making the same point, Kevin, and the point is, yeah, they may have license or they might have the freedom to sell their bananas locally, but I think the larger point Mark was making, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have all these companies extracting the wealth from the local banana farmers, right?
And controlling.
They come in and extract it out to the United States, and there's probably just one or two of them that you can go through.
And if you look at the history, it's been a constant, like just back and forth between how much humanity are we going to let these farmers have versus how much money are we going to make. And
right.
In the first contract between, like after people that were Filipinos were allowed to like own land in where Dole's territory was, they formed co-ops, and then Dole gave them a contract that they're like, here, go ahead and sign this. Basically like a treaty. And that was the first kind of like shot across the bow, and it's been a constant struggle. And I think that even if people in the Philippines or farmers in Mindanao just were aware of like the opportunities that existed
See,
with
that's
what they
yes,
have now,
yes,
and
yes, because there's no option. So
because why are you growing a field of bananas that you're going to get paid 3 cents for
have
when
you
you
ever
can
driven?
grow a
Have you ever
plant that
driven,
has
bro? Have
yeah.
you ever been through those fields?
I get what you're saying.
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
I have. I have every week for years.
And yeah,
Between Jensen and Davao is nothing but like those fields, and so we're talking. That's 3 hours of banana fields, and you're driving 60, 70. Well, you're driving about 90 kilometers an hour. So that is a lot, and it's just as far as the eye can see, and it's all controlled. That's disgusting to me. So so our answer is to streamline the value chain and to give them a third option, correct?
correct. Or no, just more options. Like
Well, yeah, from what they have.
yeah, right.
They only
And
have
it's
two or three options right now, so you're giving them another one here.
right. And like I think that's an important part of it, because when we go talk to a grower in Latin America, the first thing that comes to their mind is like, well, this guy's trying to screw me over. And being able to address that up front, just be clear with what the value proposition is for them, would be super helpful.
Yeah, and if you could come in with if you could come to the growers offering to give them a much larger slice of the pie, if you will, what would that do for the individual grower? If you could pay them 3 or 4 times as much, and maybe you can afford to go higher, but if you could make them 3 or 4 times what they're currently making per banana, how would that transform their life?
Well, it would allow them to advance, because if you're growing for someone that's already dictating to you what the terms are, you have no bargaining power. And what are you
Yeah.
going to do other than just buying more land to grow for the same company?
Just
So
say yes. Well,
with
you
this,
the
like you're
option is to say
developing,
yes.
yeah, right. And I think a lot of that part is just the education of, just like I said, the opportunities. Because if you compare the Philippines and Indonesia, they both have similar climates, can grow the same things. I think they
Yeah.
actually have the same amount of like agricultural businesses, but there's barely anyone exporting from the Philippines when it comes to houseplants. And I'm like, you're just sitting on a gold mine, because just somebody will buy that right now. That's what I'm trying to tell them. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there's someone out there that's gonna buy this for 10 times what a local person would buy for. And it's like, well, what's really stopping you? And a lot of the things we're hearing is just like, oh, we didn't know that there's demand. Oh, well, now I know there's demand. Oh, I need to get
Mhm.
an export license. I'll have to go through this, and we can't control that. So that's why it's tough. But I think if we can get that first person from like a state of interested in tapping into global trade, and then walk them through the getting the
Okay.
certification process, and then creating a narrative through that, like with content,
Yeah.
that's
That's powerful.
something that people haven't seen.
I apologize. I was looking for plants that my wife buys. So in the buy and
As
sell.
an example. Okay.
Yes. So
Yeah.
this is hilarious. Okay. In the buy and sell groups on Facebook or whatnot, a lot of Filipino like farms, whatnot, will sell like the dragon fruit plants or whatnot. So my wife will buy, she'll buy them all the time. And they'll get shipped here, and then you pay on delivery, whatever. And but the goats ate them. So it's gonna bring in, the dragon fruit plant, and then she's like, no, the goats got them. So
Yeah.
I apologize.
Shall
for
we
that.
continue with the deck?
Let me. There you go. So
Whoa.
demand for plants is only going up, and it was going up before COVID, and it's going to continue to go up.
I humbly apologize. Did I miss the one where we're going to focus on Vegas first?
Oh, I don't think there was a slide on that.
Right. So this is what, since we're working on the deck, right? This is what I suggest. Okay, you don't want to do
the local. You want to do the local area, right?
Because you're raising. Remember, you're talking to. Okay, so your entire narrative is problem, solution, and then how it's easy, and then how you make money, and then how it's sexy. If you go in, it's like, the U.S., what? No, you go, what's the market in San Francisco or in Las Vegas? What is it right now?
I don't know.
See, but you put that up, and then you put the city, you put the city of Las Vegas, and you go, look, and here's how you narrate it, okay? Because you're doing a deck, because you're going to get money to accomplish that. You got to look, it's this big in just one city. If we get, you get what I'm saying, bro? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so here's the difference. There's an old joke, and I wanted to say this yesterday. There's an old joke that says there's a guy in the bar, and he's going to every single girl going, can I take you home? Can I take you home? Can I take you home? And they all go, no, right? But if that guy goes to one girl, and he talks to her, and he gives him a charm, and he goes, can I take you home? You say yes, right? So the point is if you go after everything, you're going to get nothing. But if you focus and you go after something, another term to say this is shotgun versus sniper, right? So you're going to laser point your thing and say, hey, look, we are in Vegas. Now, why are you in Vegas? They don't need to know this. They don't need to know that you're a Vegas corporation. You're doing this. And it's easier for you geographically. They don't need to know that. And it's a good market because of the plants in the hotel industry.
That's all they need to know. It's a great market.
Right. Look, you give me this money, we're going to own Vegas. It's this big, and nobody has it. And then you get what I'm saying. So it's like, boom, Vegas is this value. And then like 2 slides later, you say, and in the future, the market is $9 billion, going to be $40 billion. That's what it is for, right? So what you want to do, because, all right, if you're going
to tease them, you don't want to just like come out with it the first.
Yeah,
slide.
you don't
like,
need
is that
to
kind of what
give
you're
them
talking about?
No, you got to. Okay, it's like this. You can sell more raffle tickets if you say, I'm going to give away 10 prizes of $500,
right,
rather than one $50,000 prize. Okay, so what you're saying is, look, I'm going after $500. I feel like, or whatever it is for that market. You're framing your. I've never not raised funds ever. Okay, I have never not raised funds. Never tried to raise funds for a company, and I've never failed. I've never not been able to start a company because it failed ever. And I've done this a lot. So you frame it so it's like, hey, we're only going to go after San Francisco, and then it's like. Boom. And then people, they can understand that. Oh, you need 200 grand, 250 grand because you're going to go out. That makes sense because nobody.
It's more tangible, yeah.
Yeah, and it's framed in such a way that they're like, holy shit. And then when you say your next round is you're going to raise $3 million because you're going to go after the West Coast, what you've done is you've given them a happy meal, a value meal, and a supersize. Okay? If you go in and go, hey, it's called a hockey stick thing. Whenever you're doing a presentation, you don't want to have that hockey sticker. The market's this big. No. Because every freaking VC sees that. And it's like, and if we can only get 1%. No. You're doing it backwards. Remember what I said.
Right, because you didn't even know, like, who do you think you are to like think you'd be able to even access that
1%, right? But if you come in and you're like, yeah, we're going to hit that 1%. They're going to be like, that's reasonable. You're saying the same damn thing. But what you're doing is you're not saying there's the elephant on the mouse. You're saying there's the hole.
Excellent point.
Probably more graphic than it needed.
Maybe a little more graphic than intended. Are there more slides?
Let me see. I think Oh, it's not sharing anymore. 1 second.
Yeah, let me, while you're doing that, don't say.
So these are the two
Kevin,
main,
your
or three main.
mic dropped.
It's all right. So let's clarify. I want to make it not funny. Don't ever go in and say it's $10 billion. We're going to get 1%. It's easier to say first, we're going to go, our target is this market, it's $1 million. We're going after this. And the larger picture is 10 billion. Because it's step.
Right.
You put, right? It's a mental framing and it works. If
And
you
they've
say,
done
hey, look,
studies. The human mind can't comprehend large numbers.
Yeah. Right.
it makes you look dumb, young, and full of cum.
So anyways, okay, let's talk about the slide.
Yeah, so there are 3 ways we make money. 2 of them are related to selling plants, whether that's direct to the consumer or in bulk to businesses. And what we're looking into is how to then add a premium service on it where you'll get cheaper pricing, access to value-added services that'll all be delivered electronically that people want. And if we can build like a business model on like being a member of that and building a cult following, that's what I really think will help us defend against commoditization.
And you're going to create a pocket of demand for what the growers provide that will hopefully grow.
Pocket.
Yeah. My suggestion is, do you have a next slide? Okay, so my suggestion is, so go to the previous slide. Okay, so how do we make money? Okay, then you're giving them the text. So you have 3 slides after this. The next slide will be a picture of the farmer in Indonesia or the Philippines, and then another picture to somebody on their phone with the application. Then the slide after that will be a picture of a nursery that you already work with, like Juan's Nursery or whatever, downtown Oakland. And then that customer, pictured next to them buying the FICA tree or whatever tree it is there. And then the third is an annual membership. And then you say annual memberships. And so what are some of the annual memberships that are well known in the industry that investors will understand? You want to do Dollar Shave Club, you want to do Coffee Club, you want to do things.
Costco. It's an online Costco, online wholesale for.
Yeah, but please
keep it electronic.
Dollar Shave Club, they'll understand that because that's like a model that they'll get. Yep. Okay, so you want to do because it started small. You're not Costco, bro. So you want to keep it relevant to who you are. You want to do Dollar Shave Club. You want to do like maybe I hate Black Rifle Coffee because they ended up being woke, but you do Black Rifle Coffee. You do shit like that, like you know what I'm saying? Successful SME.
Can you give me the order of those
products? Yeah. You start with just a few products.
Yeah. So the first one, which is the question?
You're not a Costco yet.
Yeah.
Focus.
Don't ever.
Focus totally on a couple of products, and you become the godfather of those products. Then you can think about expanding and being like a Costco someday.
What was your question, Mark?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to get the order of that what you suggested.
So are we starting back at the farmer?
Yeah, after this.
You mean the
after
annual?
this slide.
Oh, okay. So after this slide, the first one is from the farmer to the Philippine, or from the farmer to the Philippine, or from the farmer to the consumer. Okay, and you graphically represent that, right? Get it? And to be honest, that would be a great place to put the video. Okay, and the plow in the field, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
Agreed.
I'm not going to play the video because it's copyrighted. So that video I gave you is gold. Okay. The next one would be B2B wholesale, and that's Juan. Take the video of you at Juan. Hey Juan, how are you? oh, I'm doing good, Mark. This is the new things in from Honduras, right? And then you have, your actress lady come up and go, oh my God, you've got ficus trees. Oh yeah, we have dragon fruit plants too, right? And so boom, that's it. That's the video. And then the next one would be the annual memberships. And then the annual membership slide would be like Dollar Shave Club, Black Rifle Coffee, whatever the monthly subscription that you get through the mail, right? It's the same model as like Amazon Prime or whatever, but you're not going to use the big names. You want to use success. Okay, remember something. You're pitching dudes to get, okay, so we've already raised the capital for your seed. That's not a problem. What we're doing now is we're going to go to the next level, right? We're going to want to raise 250 to $500,000. That's where we're at right now. And then after we get that money, we prove the model, then we're going to want to raise 3 million or 5 million. Okay. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit the market and what they understand. So if you say Dollar Shave Club, but it's for plants, something like that, people will get it. And then with that, you want to include the influencers. So you have and you want to get them on a freaking, dude, here's what I said about Microsoft MCSE. You have the certification of Plants Without Borders, being ethically sourced, whatever, and it's all certified. So you create your certification, and then you get your influencers that preach because it's a religion, bro. You're preaching the religion.
I like that. I like the influencers using them to push it out there.
And if they're pitching anything else, you can make fun of them on Twitter. Oh, look at this asshole. They're not certified. They're not ethically sourced. They're not whatever. So you're creating a
PWB certified, bro.
Bitch.
Gotta be certified.
No. If they're like hawking, and then here's the thing that Glenn Greenwald does, right? So Glenn Greenwald always he takes a stick and he always attacks power and he goes, hey, you're after power, you're after the global corporation, you're this, right? Because at the end of the day, right now, the entire world is in a battle for the next pivot point of mankind. Right? We are currently in a nexus of the next pivot point for mankind. Are we going to be controlled by globalist big company overlords, or are we going to enable, because this is what people don't understand. The same technology that exists that empowers the global corporations and the big megalithic people that we don't vote for that can censor you and tell you what to think and feel and eat and sleep are the same things that can empower the small local farmers. This is what bothers me. Because all the technology and stuff that I've been working my entire career and my life for to build, which was the internet, distributed systems, smart contracts with blockchain, all this stuff is being abused by the big corporations rather than empowering and enabling sustainable and ethically sourced stuff. So what we're dealing right now is you are in a battle for the hearts and minds of individuals as a brand, as a position, and a policy position of value based upon what the world is doing. And you're saying, we're not Amazon. We are not Costco. We are Plants Without Borders. We are ethically sourced from local farmers and growers. And then you go back to the supply chain. So everything, this is like a religion, bro. You have to have your doctrine and dogma, your tenets. You have to have your Apostles' Creed. You have to have your Great Commandment and your Great Commission. Just model it after Catholicism.
Doctrine,
right?
Dogma,
Tenets,
disciples.
creed.
Doctrine, dogma, creed. So doctrine, right, is what has come from on high. So that's your 3 tenets. Remember, is it good for the grower? Is it good for the planet? Is it good for the consumer? That's your doctrine. Your dogma is your relationship with people. We have good relationships. We're 100% accountable. We deliver. We honor our word. Right? That's your dogma.
It's like man-made rules based on the principles.
Right. So your doctrine is your 3 major rules, and then your dogma is how you deal with stuff. Right. So your doctrine is like these 3 things. Is it good for the grower? Is it good for the planet? Is it good for the consumer? Those 3 things. Right. And then your dogma is that's the doctrine. The dogma is, or maybe it's flipped. I don't fucking know. I'm not Catholic. Don't tell my wife. And then you have how you relate with people. Okay, so all of that subset is basically your value system. Now, what you're doing is, remember, you cannot compete with the big monolithic corporations. The only way you can go through them is through what? And this is why we're talking. This is why we've talked to each other since whatever, is because I've never changed. Ever since you saw that 2012 video of me talking with Al Jazeera that went to 50 million people. That video of me talking about the Philippines being the next Silicon Valley was viewed by 50 million people. So the same thing exists. Are you going to preach limitation, resource, and lack? Or are you going to preach, hey, sustainable, ethically sourced, and prosperous? Because both can exist. Both can exist. This is the evil that we're facing in our world. Both exist on the same coin, right? You still are selling plants. You still have people that farm them. You still have, right? But where is that value going to go? Is it going to go to global organizations up here? Or is it going to go to families and communities down here? And so the earth is actually in a battle right now and the evil corporate structures at the top on the same coin are fighting over the same idea. And the same idea is you've got a farmer that wants to sell plants, that loves growing plants, to consumers. However, all the politics and all the resources and all the regulations that are happening are to control the power, not to empower the individual. That's the end of my story.
Loved it.
Yeah,
Great
I
stuff,
feel the same
Kevin.
way.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you should have me pitch your product.
Yeah, we could work something out. But yeah, I think
we're good for today. I mean, we've got plenty of time. But how do you feel, Mark? Do you feel like this is a good start for your deck?
Yeah, definitely. I'll put some more work in it tomorrow, and I think it's a start in the right direction.
Okay.
And momentum.
Once you get your heart and your emotion into what's going on, and you're able to frame it into the human story of what you're doing, that's the win. Okay? Don't use language that you got taught in university. Speak with metaphor and myth. This is why Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, and myth is so critical to what we're doing. You are doing a Forrest Gump here. You are telling the story of Forrest Gump. You're doing a Benjamin Button. You're doing an Avatar. You're doing a insert here narrative. You're telling an epic story of mankind. That's your brand, right? And your story is fucking The Empire Strikes Back. We are against this bullshit. Not before Disney. Let me be clear. Star Wars before Disney. Disney fucked it up because Disney's the empire. Okay, so that's what we're after. You are after that story. And the thing is, I'm more immersed in it because I'm here and I've done this before. But I'm going to keep you honest. As long as you tell the story that the tech, dude, it's simple. You're buying plants from growers. You're putting them on a boat. It's coming there. Okay. Now, Costco can do it too. Anybody can do this, right? What we're doing, okay, right? But you tell a story this way with this much, dude. You tell people like, hallelujah, take my money, right? Okay. But if you go at it the way you have been going at it, which is, put your slide back up. Let's go back to them a couple. All right, do you see how I talk? Go back. Just keep scrolling back. All right. Keep going. Just keep going back. Go back, go forward. Yeah. What the hell is this?
Yeah, bro.
This is your enemy.
I read on Google Scholar, bro.
This is your fucking enemy, right? This is not, you don't use language like this. I don't even know what this means. And I'm a smart dude with 30 years, I've been online for forever. Now, this is your enemy, okay?
Yeah, keep it simple.
Enemy. Dude, tell the story of mankind and then how you are, right? Remember, it's all the same battle. It's the pivot point of mankind in human history. Right now, who's going to have the power and authority over plants and growing? Is it going to be Bill Gates in China owning everything, and then the serf, you'll own nothing and be happy? Because right now, you know what it means to own nothing and be happy. It means you sell pineapples for fucking 6 cents a piece. And that is what's going on. And everybody is using race, equity, all this BS, and the environment to what? To gain control. Right? You are punk rock. You are the dude saying, I'm enabling these dudes, and I'm going to help them be prosperous. That's it for me, guys.
Awesome. Bravo, bud. Why don't we do this? This has gone half an hour longer than I intended it. And I'm sure you got lots of ideas from Kevin that you'd like to incorporate into your deck.
Yeah.
So why don't we save the rest of the deck for a part 2?
Let's not save it. Go and improve it, and then part 2, or this is actually part 3.
We'll do a part 2 of this.
Yeah.
And we
Of
can
the improved story of mankind.
The story of mankind. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. Let's do that.
So today is Wednesday for you. It's Thursday for me. How about we do this on your Monday, Mark? Is that good, or your Tuesday? Or tomorrow?
Fine.
I can do this tomorrow.
Yeah, you can do it tomorrow.
You ready for doing it tomorrow? I'm game.
Okay,
Right.
I'm game.
Done. That's what I'd love to hear, dude. Mark, I appreciate you. I love you. I love the work you're doing. You kick ass. Tyler, as always, you are the anchor to my bullshit. So I appreciate you both.
Metaphors.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Okay, you too, buddy.
I enjoyed it.